Welcome to the political segment of the weekend show where we'll be discussing the ongoing End Bad Governance and Hunger protest happening across the country, focusing on youth development and the ways forward. Joining us for the conversation, we have Rinshola Abiola, who is the Senior Special Advisor to the President on Citizenship and Leadership. And we also have joining us Honorable Clement Jimbo, who is representing Abak Etimikbo Ika constituency in Akwa Ibom State. Good morning. Welcome back.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. And a slight correction to you. Senior Special Assistant, not advisor.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
And
thank
good
you very
morning.
much.
Thanks
Good morning.
for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. All right, so let's get into the situation at hand. It's August 10th, meaning it's been 10 days since the protest across the country initially started. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my main thought is that there comes a time in a democracy, a lot of the time when citizens often often decide to express displeasure with policies or decisions of government and to do so publicly through civic action like taking to the streets and participating in peaceful protest. And that is a right guaranteed in our constitution and in any democracy. And that is a right that the Nigerian government fully respects. And we also understand that I think perhaps the major challenge that a few people might have is differentiating between a peaceful protest and a riot, which I think is what upends security and what causes security concerns. But the right to protest is one that is fully protected by our constitution as long as it remains peaceful. And this is also a listening government. The president has since addressed the nation, talked about a few things, quite a number of initiatives that he has put in place in different sectors, especially regarding the issue of youth development particularly.
Okay, Honorable, I'd like to also hear your thoughts on the ongoing protest.
Well, thank you very much. Like she said, the right to protest is ingrained in our constitution. Section 40 guarantees that right. And the youths of Nigeria have always been vocal when it comes to using that right. But you know, for every right comes responsibilities. So in as much as you have the right to protest, you need to also take into cognizance the responsibilities that are behind the rights. Well, for the past 10 days, 9 days, so to say, today making it 10, they have consistently expressed their displeasure over what they consider misgovernance in the end bad governance. To me, it is an open-ended statement. It is not targeted at anything. When you say end bad governance, what are you actually talking about? So, but their grievances have been heard by government across all quarters, the National Assembly, at some point the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, the Senate President, Deputy Senate President, and all the presiding officers of the National Assembly had to come out and appeal to Nigerians and appeal to youths. Look, this is a country that is a work in progress. Give the government a chance. And like she rightly said, the government, if there is any demographic of this nation that have really benefited so far from this government, is the youth stock. If you look at the student loans, so far, over 2.5 billion naira has been disbursed to over 22,000 students. It has never happened in the history of this nation, where a greater percentage of the burden have been taken away from the parents. They can have a sigh of relief to go into their campuses, study without having to think of where to have money to pay their tuition fee and even upkeep. Those are things that we should be grateful for this administration and so many other things that the government is equally doling out, which of course requires some time to fully materialize.
Shola, what specific steps has the government taken to respond to the demands of the youths?
So I would say that there are a number of demands in the first place that I think came up as a result of perhaps not being fully aware of initiatives already put in place to meet them. Talking about youth issues specifically, and then again, something else to note is the fact that in protests of this nature, where there's no specific leader per se, you have different groups coming out to make demands on behalf of those protesting, and you get to hear many different demands from different groups, and it's as if there's no central coordination, and security implication of that especially was something that was highlighted and emphasized prior to the protest starting. But I would want to speak regarding youth issues generally, and that's because obviously the larger chunk of those who participated in the protests are young people. And again, we have the bigger percentage of Nigeria's population. Whatever it is that we are doing as a government has to be centered on young people. And as the Honorable rightly noted, this administration has introduced the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, student loans, to support young people, not just with their tuition, but also living expenses while they're in school for those who are unable to afford it. We also have a number of other initiatives. We've recently reintroduced the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund with 110 billion naira this time around to support young entrepreneurs to run their businesses. We're very aware of the fact that the informal sector contributes a great deal to the Nigerian economy. Recent statistics show that well over 60% of our GDP is contributed by the informal sector, even though there's still a bit of a challenge with properly assessing the contributions of the informal sector fully. And this just goes to show that it's a sector that needs to be properly paid attention to. We had the conditional cash grant for nano businesses, 50,000 naira each, that 600,000 nano businesses across the country have so far benefited from, with 400,000 more to go. And I'm emphasizing this because so that we understand that the government is not just doing things for young, upwardly mobile people who are in university or those who are professionals. We're also looking at the segment of the population that is deeply involved in the informal sector, our traders, our market women, our artisans. We also have the Scale Up Artisans project. The iDice project is focused on job creation through the digital and creative economy. And this, again, these are sectors that mostly employ young people. There's a 3 million technical talents program introduced by the Digital Communication Ministry to also help young people develop their potential and their capacity in tech. There's a National Talent Export Program, which is supposed to help about 1 million young people access to opportunities, job opportunities across the country in the service-based industry. So there's actually quite a lot going on. There's a Nigeria Youth Academy, which helps young people to learn skills that will be profitable, to empower them economically. There's a corepreneur scheme introduced by the Honorable Minister of State for Youth Development, Honorable Ayodele Olawande, which is focused on supporting our young people in the core, National Youth Service Corps, to support them learn skills, also give them grants for their businesses. So we're actually working to support our young people especially, and we're not unmindful of the fact that there's quite a lot of work that needs to be done for Nigeria's mass of youth population. And I understand that a major point of grievance is the removal of the subsidies on petrol, which is what has now resulted in inflation, food inflation particularly has been highlighted as a major issue, and that is something I also attest to. But then this government has also now removed tariffs on imported items, basic staples that are imported, all as part of efforts to drive down the cost of food. The government is working really hard, partnering with states as well, to support agriculture across the country so that we can also lower the cost of food that is produced. So as the Honorable rightly noted, initiatives are being put in place, actions are being taken. Some have begun to yield fruit already. A bag of tomatoes is now, even pepper has gone from around 180,000 to 32,000, something that has been confirmed by people who do market shopping for others online. It's public information for everyone to see, and I'm sure that it's even much cheaper in other areas of the north where these food items are taken down to southern states where that particular quote was gotten from. So I would also really like to encourage our young people to take advantage of initiatives that have been put in place. And then talking about the issue of corruption, for instance, this government has also channeled proceeds of corruption into social investment schemes, so to speak, like the National Education Loan Fund and the Credit Corporation. 50 billion naira each recovered from corruption cases have been channeled into these initiatives. And that, for me, clearly speaks to the commitment of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to actually make Nigeria's resources work for the Nigerian people. And if you look at it, these are initiatives that would mostly benefit young people. So I would like to appeal to young people especially to also do their best to be on the lookout for government initiatives that they can qualify for. I'm aware that the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, I've heard feedback about how they need to have registered businesses, but ideally you should register your business because that's the proper way to do things. And then they need a business plan. These are things that they can actually consult on and get people to do for them, because we also want to ensure that our young people are empowered. And it's very important that we're also able to track those who are able to access these initiatives and to also track their progress. So these are things that need to be put in place to ensure that things are done properly and that things are done right. So this is an administration that is actually fully committed to making sure that, firstly, Nigerian resources work for the Nigerian people, and secondly, our young people are prioritized. And then talking about fuel subsidy removal again, it wasn't removed because the president wants to impose hardship on Nigerians. There was no provision for fuel subsidies beyond June 2023. So there really was no way to carry on paying subsidies. And it's something that has actually put quite a drain on our resources as a country. With the removal of fuel subsidies, we've actually now also seen increased allocation to subnational governments, state governments. This is an administration that has also fought at the Supreme Court to secure financial autonomy and administrative autonomy for our local governments, all as part of efforts to ensure that Nigeria's resources get to the Nigerian people and that governance is improved at the grassroots level. So all of these together speak to the president's commitment to actually making this country work and also reviving, infusing new life into governance at the local government, which is where it will really impact people. So we also need our young people to also strive to hold our leaders at those subnational levels accountable. With the increased allocation, what kind of youth initiatives have we been seeing in our states, apart from just what the federal government is doing? With the increased allocation, and allocation now going directly to the local governments, what initiatives are also being put in place to support young people at the grassroots?
Honorable, would you say this protest is premature, seeing as the government has only been in office for a year? Or is it justified? Based on proper expectations that the public had?
To say premature, I wouldn't say it's premature because you cannot take away that right from the people to express themselves at any point in time they wish to express. I said in your sister channels, I think a day ago, that this is the first administration, to the best of my knowledge, since independence, that is being run without the provision of fuel subsidy. So you are seeing a different administration that never existed. All of a while, we've been used to subsidizing petroleum products, successive government upon successive government, but this is a different kind of government that had never existed. So for that to come to terms with Nigerians, there is obviously going to be some adjustment, some inconveniences, because for every development, there is inconveniences. So the inconveniences that majority or some section of our youth experience is what they have expressed out for government to know. Look, you are doing this and we are not very comfortable. But then I look at those that the protesters critically, and I ask myself, the young people that trooped into the street, especially in the north, to protest, do they really know what they are protesting for? Or it is just as a result of, I have seen somebody on the street, let me also join my colleagues and friends and do whatever they are doing. Looting, criminality, vandalism, and the rest, do they know the import of what they were actually doing? Because if you are indeed protesting to achieve a misnomer that you have experienced in a society, it should be targeted at a particular solution. I look at, for example, Dangote Refinery. He has spent close to over $20 billion to establish a refinery, an hydrocarbon plant. And right now he's asking for feedstock, hydrocarbons, crude oil. There is back and forth with NNPCL, NUPRC, I ask a question. If Nigeria is ranked among the oil-producing nation in the world, and every other nation that is ranked in that category have nothing less than 1, 2, 3, 4, some 10, some 15 refineries that are producing their petroleum products, how come that having had the courage to establish a 650,000 barrels of refinery a day in Nigeria, and Nigeria is not able to supply feedstock to this plant, which eventually is going to reduce our import dependent on petroleum products, is going to reduce the pressure on our naira. That is, to the best of my knowledge, that is where our youth should channel their energy and ask critical questions. How come that we have been clamoring for refinery, now that we've had one, and we are saying there is no crude oil? What happened to our crude? They should call NNPC and ask questions. They should call NUPRC and ask questions. Now, if that protest was targeted at those critical areas that will eventually impact on the economy of Nigeria, trust me, Clement Jimbo sitting down here will be at the forefront.
But the thing is, for them to get the energy to actually, tackle that or protest on that, they need to get food to eat, which is the basic thing. And the food prices are high. There's hardship.
I agree with you, but let us narrow it down. The last time I was here, I talked extensively on patriotism. Nigerians need to show more patriotism to ourselves and to the nation. Recently, federal government rolled out 50 kg bag of rice at 40,000 naira. A civil servant, a woman, bought it at 50,000 naira. Went into the general market and sold it at 80,000 naira. For crying out loud, why are you thwarting the effort of government in ameliorating the current sufferings of Nigerians? If you do not need it, then don't go for it. Allow those that really need it to get it. The other time I was in Kano, before that, during Ramadan, a bag of ice block is normally sold for 200 naira. But within that period, the price was hijacked to 700 naira. What happened? Taking advantage of situations and taking advantage of your fellow Nigerians. Why can't we love ourselves enough to consider our fellow citizens? That is where it begins from. Now, if you want to look at the core crux of the problem, the hunger we are experiencing today, if you are really intelligent and you have delved into where the problem started, then you will know that it was just a matter of time that today will be experienced. When we had independence in 1960, we inherited a population of about 45 million human beings, with a gross domestic product of about 4.2 billion US dollars. Within the same land space, the land space of Nigeria as at 1960 is still the same land space today. It has not increased. Fast forward to today, 64 years after, the same land space, but our population has increased from 45 million to over 200 million. The GDP has equally increased from 4.2 billion US dollars to over 450 billion US dollars. The question we will ask, the increment in our GDP, does it reflect on the prosperity of Nigerians? The answer is no. And the next question is why? Because we have lived long enough to see successive leaders of our country in the state level, at the national level, when this country was booming, the economic prosperity era of this country, where a particular minister that coordinated the economy, I'm talking about Sisuko Njoy-Wela, advised our governors, now that you are getting so much, can we save a part of what you are getting for the rainy day? All of them said no. That would have been an appropriate time for youths of Nigeria to take to the street and say, listen to what this woman is saying. Save, because a time will come that this thing will not always be there. And we've also seen that many of our leaders, instead of investing in the infrastructure of their nation, educational infrastructure, health infrastructure, and all that, they choose to invest in other climes, neglecting their own country. What do you expect of your children? The population is blossoming. The population is increasing. And the land mass has not increased. And do not also forget, what was sustaining this nation in the early days was agriculture. And we are not doing as much farming as we used to do. Where do you think the country was headed? It was only a matter of time that we will experience. And thank God for the current administration. They have earmarked 500,000 hectares of land. Right now, they have gone into a bilateral agreement with a company, a Tata Corporation, to produce over 10,000 tractors to be delivered to Nigeria for mechanized farming. That is where we need to go back. We need to go back to what actually kept this country afloat, where foreigners came in and they were happy. Sometimes it breaks my heart where somebody goes to maybe US embassy, UK embassy, Canadian embassy, and gets a visa. The next thing is for him or her to give a testimony in church. I have been given a visa. To do what? To do what exactly? To leave your country? Sometimes it breaks my heart when graduates of medical colleges say they are eager to leave the shores of Nigeria to go and practice elsewhere. I ask themselves, why didn't you go to that country that you want to practice to go and study? The country that has given you so much, given you the just the student loan we talked about, that is what is costing Nigeria to make you assess education. The country is doing so much for you, but how are you willing to give back to the country that has given you the space, the technology, the expertise, the energy to even think of going outside to deploy those energies to building another person's country? Then you sit aloof and throw your hands in fatalistic resignation and complain that your country is not doing well. Who is going to work the country for us?
Inshallah, I would like you to come in here. You've mentioned a lot of youth development programs that the government has done. So these initiatives, how have they implemented them? Is there any transparency in the process? Because some of the amount of money you've said has been released and all of that, I personally do not know anyone who has been a beneficiary. I don't know anyone who knows anyone who has been a beneficiary. So how do we know that this money is actually reaching, the final stop?
So I would say that for the nano business grants, I know quite a number of beneficiaries. But then it could also be a function of me also being I would say active at the grassroots politically. So we're pretty much in touch with people at that level, especially those who are traders and who deal in those kinds of small businesses that would want to benefit from it. But then I work in government, so I don't think I'm the right person who should be giving that particular testimony. But I've also seen people online comment about how they know people who got that particular nano grant. And so regarding transparency, honestly, I haven't had any cause based on the feedback that I have gotten both within my network and from other people as well to doubt whether or not that particular initiative is genuine. But I would also like to urge you, you work in the media. The media is the fourth estate of the realm. So we also we appreciate interventions by our partners in the media. We're all working to safeguard this democracy at the end of the day. You could also look into that and maybe put out a call and try to engage people at the grassroots across the country. But to be sincere, and I am very honest about this, I know quite a number of people who got the grants and positive feedback that came in from young people and traders alike. And regarding the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, that was only recently introduced, I think late July. The call was put out for applications. And again, I know young people who have been applying, and there have been lots of conversations around it on social media even. So they're not at the disbursement stage yet, to the best of my knowledge. People are still making the applications for the NYIF. That's a 110 billion naira fund, but it has been cash backed. And the president, in addition to the NYIF, the president also, the Federal Executive Council, led by the president, of course, also approved another would I say policy, which was aimed at affirmative action for young people in appointments, 30% if I recall correctly. So there's actually that as well too. And for the 3 million technical talents, it's a very well publicized initiative by the Honorable Minister for Digital Economy, Mr. Bosun Tijani, and the ministry generally. And we've also had quite a number of beneficiaries come up. They're doing it in cohorts, so different schedules. Once they're done, they'll start with another one. So I see their interactions even with the minister directly on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter, by the way. So I've seen their interactions talking about hubs. I know they have physical trainings as well, because I know personally some people who also are part of that program. For the Skill Up Artisans, that is done by one of the other ministries as a youth-focused initiative. NIA is being championed by the Honorable Minister of State for Youth Development, Honorable Ayodele Olawande. It's online. You can look it up online. You can learn online. As long as you have data, you can learn. It's free. There is no barrier to access. You can learn. The tagline is actually one youth, two skills, to help young people with gaining the skills that they need that would enhance their economic potential. For the student loans, NELFund is on Twitter. I'm sure they have social media accounts on other social media platforms as well. And people actually do interact with them to say, I've gotten my stipend. Some actually shared screenshots of the alerts as they came in. 20,000 naira is what the students are receiving. Over 20,000, about 20,371 students being credited for their stipend. So the way NELFund works is tuition is paid directly to universities just to ensure there's no funny business in between. And then those who apply, if you apply for the tuition, you can also apply for upkeep. So once your tuition is paid directly to the institution, that was done a few weeks ago at the Villa, actually, where the vice chancellors of these institutions were actually there. With the president was there as well. Checks were presented to them. Some of the beneficiaries were also present. So there's actually been a lot of transparency regarding that particular initiative. And those now also receiving stipends have started to speak out about it. And it's not just limited to those 20,371 who have started getting their stipends, but others will be paid in batches as well. And from what I understand from NELFund's and public communications, tuition payments are also synced to the school's respective schedules. So if the school is in session, they can get paid. Well, one thing they noted, Mr. Akintade Soya, who is who heads NELFund, is the fact that we've had more beneficiaries of the student loans from northern Nigeria because our people in the south are very skeptical. So I would like to use this opportunity to encourage our young students in southern Nigeria. NELFund is real. It is very real. And I would also like to encourage them to organize. What they did in universities up north, in schools up north, was that this management of the schools actually helped to organize the students who need help. So I'm also calling on the academic community in southern universities and other universities, really, north, south, wherever you may be. Engage the system. You need to get your details on the portal before students from your institution can then benefit. So state-owned institutions especially, please engage the NELFund system. Make it easy for your students to be able to benefit. And those in the academic community, you're our leaders, you're our mentors, you're our supervisors, you're our teachers. Please get our students together as well. Make them aware of this opportunity and help them, with whatever they need, whatever you need to do to put them through so that they can also apply and benefit from it. There are thousands of beneficiaries who have gotten their tuition paid and others now also receiving stipends of 20,000 naira monthly. It goes a long way. For a student who needs the support. We're very aware of the fact that for many young people, they've had their hopes and dreams dashed because they're not able to afford university tuition, higher education. And this administration, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is saying that there is no young Nigerian who desires higher education who should not be able to access it, not under his watch. And that is why the student loans have been put in place for you to benefit from. This is an administration that wants to help you grow. We want to nurture the potentials of young people. We understand that higher education enhances, it broadens your horizon, it enables you access better opportunities, it enhances your ability to earn. So please apply for the student loans if you need it. It's not a scam, it works. Thousands of young people have benefited from it and you should not be left out.
Just before we go, I would like both of you to answer this question in less than 1 minute. What message would you like to convey to young Nigerians who are seeking to drive change, particularly through this protest? Honorable, you could begin.
Well, let me say this. I would like to quote from Albert Camus from his book titled The Rebel. He said, "It is better to die on your feet than to live on your knees." Every single youth out there, believe in your country. Hold the leaders of your country accountable. by specifically dealing with critical issues that you can hold on to. For example, the budget 2024 is ongoing. Take time, download the budget. It's a public document. Search it, your state, your local government, your federal constituencies. There are projects earmarked for implementation across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Write to the different agencies, write to the different ministries, write to the different parastatals. Show interest. Then write to your senator, write to your House of Representative members. Show interest. That is how to hold them accountable. The moment a senator knows that his constituents know what is earmarked for his senatorial district, for his constituents, for his local government area, for his community, there is that tendency for the senator to sit up and follow up the implementation of this project. That is actually how to hold the government accountable. So prefer to die on your feet than to live on your knees.
All right, Anshala.
To the young people of Nigeria, I would say that this is an administration that genuinely cares about you and that is fully aware of its responsibilities towards the youth. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu does not believe that young people are the leaders of tomorrow. He believes that young people are the leaders of today. There are many young people like you who are serving this administration in different capacities. And please know that we're all looking out for our generation, for other young people, and we're pushing, every single idea that we have to also ensure that young people's needs are met. And thankfully, we have a president who is fully aware of his responsibility to the country, a president who loves young people very dearly, and a president who also prioritizes young people and has them at the top of his mind. So please take advantage of the initiatives developed by this administration in different ministries, different agencies. Look at the digital economy, look at the Ministry for Creative Economy, look at the Ministry for Youth Development, Trade and Investment. There are so many initiatives that you can take advantage of as a young person. Follow the Honorable Minister for Youth Development, follow the Minister of State for Youth Development, follow the Minister for Digital Economy, follow the Minister for Creative Economy, follow the DGBOI, follow all these institutions, NITDA, follow these agencies. There are opportunities that come up from time to time. Follow SMEDAN. There are opportunities that come up from time to time that young people can benefit from. But it seems as though we're not really attuned to, being on the lookout for these opportunities. So please pay attention to news that has to do with government as well. I know it might seem boring to a lot of us, but it's actually very beneficial if we're able to follow through. And again, for our young people in tertiary institutions, if you need support with your education, please apply for the student loans.
All right, beautiful. That's a lovely place to end this discussion. Thank you very much for joining us on the political segment. That's it for the political segment. We'll bring you more on the weekend show. To stay with us.